Welcome everybody to another live stream album release event. And this time we are celebrating the 40 Hertz Beats to Study To, which is a new album with remixes of music that I composed for the 40 Hertz albums in a style of world music, in a style of new age. But this time we took this music and had three talented remixers remixed it in a style called lo-fi Chillhop. And today we're going to discuss what it is, how we worked on it, and we welcome your questions through the comments in the YouTube page. If you enter a comment, you can write a question there, and our producer Zach will relay the questions to us. You may ask questions to any of our friends who are with me here, and I'll introduce them. First, with us, Nick Salerno, who is a remixer and music producer. Hey, Nick, just say hi so we're going to see you.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming.
And also with us, Ming. Please say
Hey
hi.
everyone, I'm Chi.
Hey, good to have you with us. And also we have Pete Cerdan. Hey, Pete, did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Yes, Cerdan, yes.
All
Glad to
right,
be here.
great. And also with us, Dr. Richard Gold, who will talk with us about the suggested use of this music and what is the science behind it. Hello, Dr. Gold.
Greetings all.
Great. So before we begin the conversation, we would like to see the album trailer. This album trailer was created by an AI animator named Vitali, and then edited by Zach Rosenblum, who is producing our event. And here it is, the album trailer for 40 Hertz Beats to Study To.
Hey, it's time to focus. There's a new type of sound called 40 Hertz, which has been found to increase problem solving, memory, and attention. 40 Hertz Beats to Study To is an album featuring these mind and body healing sounds mixed with familiar Chillhop beats, which can be enjoyed while studying. Listening to this music while studying will result in a chiller, more effective study session, resulting in better grades and less stress.
40 Hertz sound have been shown to increase cognitive function in the brain. So for this album, I took some of my 40 Hertz music tracks and had it remixed in a lo-fi Chillhop style by three talented musicians.
If you're looking to make an academic comeback this semester, listen to 40 Hertz Beats to Study To.
All right, we are back and we are ready to meet and discuss in depth this project with our three remixers. And I must say that I really enjoyed working on these remixes with Nick, Chi, and Pete. And whenever they send me a little sketch or a little loop or any kind of elements, I spend time with it. I gave them notes, I gave them feedback, suggestion, but each time, no matter what it is, I really enjoyed the materials. And I know Dr. Gold, who I shared with the materials, enjoyed it a lot. So this has been a really fun and enjoyable project. I think because of the rhythm, the groove, the upbeat feeling, it was very refreshing. So let's talk with Nick first. Nick, tell us a little bit about your music education and your musical experience.
Sure. Yeah. I've been doing music most of my life. Started when I was a young teenager playing guitar, but I went to a college up in Northern California and got my bachelor's degree in music. Just in general musicianship, I was going to become a music teacher. And after a few years, I went to Cal State Los Angeles and got a master's in film scoring and commercial music. So that actually allowed me to do all types of commercial music besides just film scoring. So that's my background and education of it. But like I say, I've been doing it since I was a young teenager.
Yeah, and I know you compose, you write, you're a songwriter, you're a producer, you produce album,
Yeah.
and one more little detail is that you also, luckily, fortunately for me and for you, I think, we met at the mentorship program at Yuval Ron Music in Los Angeles, and you worked in my studio. I remember when my kids were really young,
Yeah.
I used to tell them, "Hey, Nick is coming. Nick with the hat." I used to call Nick with the hat is coming, and you were every day in my studio for a couple of months, and then we kept working together on film scores and all kinds of projects. And it's great to reconnect through
Yeah.
mindfulness music after all.
Yes. Yeah.
That's great. So let's go to Ming. Could you share with us where you studied music and what kind of experience you've had in music since you graduated?
Sure. My name is Ming, and you can all call me Qi. And I grew up in China, and then I lived in Brazil for 4 years before I came to New York to study songwriting and music production at Berklee College of Music. And so my music, I would say, is more like immersive, and that blends world music elements, organic sounds, and electronic textures. And I also draw a lot of inspiration from my strong minority ethnic background in China. And so recently, I would say my focus is mainly on exploring the theme of nature and see how can it interact with sound in a meaningful way. And yeah, it's my honor to be part of this project.
That's great. Chi, I'll mention that you and I met also in the mentorship program of Yuval Ron Music, and thanks to Berklee College of Music that introduced us. Since I went to Berklee College of Music many, many years ago, and over the last 24 years, I've been training and mentoring students mostly from Berklee College, but not only from Berklee. Like Nick, for example, didn't go to Berklee, but few of my mentorees came from other schools, but the great majority come from Berklee College because I have the relationship with Berklee, but also I think the level of education, the level of training and experience that the people that graduate from Berklee College of Music is among the highest in the world, and so they have really strong candidates that apply for my mentorship program, and you were one of them. And I would say that you have experience in songwriting and composing and orchestration and electronic music and live music, and you're also a singer.
Yes.
Yeah. So multi-talented. These all three
Thank you.
remixes are multi-talented individuals. And last but not least, Peter Cerdan, who I also met through the mentorship program and through Berklee. So I know you went to Berklee, Pete, but tell us a little bit more about the instruments you play, the kind of music you worked on, and what kind of music you produced and created thus far.
Okay, well, so I originally started out wanting to be a classical trumpet performer. So I originally studied trumpet performance at the UCLA Herb Alpert School of Music in Los Angeles, close to your studio.
Yes.
And then I decided I wanted to pursue a more contemporary music education and transferred to Berkeley. And I studied contemporary writing and production and graduated in 2022. And I really had the opportunity to learn new styles of music and expand my horizons musically, which led me to the mentorship, of course.
Great, great. And the mentorship program led to working with Metta Mindfulness Music and with Dr. Gold and with the whole team. So this is very exciting that all three of you are involved with this new album, which are remixes of music that I composed and recorded and released in the last 4 years. So we call it remixes. Now, a lot of people are not familiar with this term. Nick, would you explain to us what is a remix? What does it involve? Is it like arranging, or is it like producing, or is it like composing? What is remixing?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's of course different ways of remixing. There's different levels of remixing. Essentially, what an artist might do is take a musical element from an existing piece of music, so something that's previously released, and then they'll take it and reconceptualize it by adding new elements to it, extracting certain elements from it and replacing them. Essentially, it's almost like collage. It's a way of taking and restructuring something that's already been created, so that you create something new essentially out of it. And that reconceptualization of it gives you new perspective on it. So some remixes can be really extreme, where all of a sudden you take a piece of classical music and turn it into, techno music, and it really changes the perspective, the way that you hear the melodies, the way you hear the harmonies. So yeah, it can be a lot of different things, but that's what it is: reconceptualizing music in a new form.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all the music on this new album are remixes, and the requirement for this project were that the remixes would be lo-fi, which is spelled L-O-F-I. Now, not a lot of people know what is lo-fi music. And I'm wondering, Chief, you could explain what is lo-fi? What does it sound like? What is actually lo-fi?
Sure. Yeah, so lo-fi is short for low fidelity, and this is like a music genre categorized by its like unpolished, raw sound, and it often includes elements like vinyl crackle or ambient noise, and creating a more like a relaxing and nostalgic vibe, and which makes it great for studying or chilling. And it's famous for being like, or just sitting in the background, and then boost productivity and focus. And yeah.
Yeah. So I remember as we were working, a lot of time I would get some tracks from you, and some of you would get an email back from me saying, it's not lo-fi enough, distort the keyboard track, or cut all the high frequencies, or make it sound more dirty, make it sound more vintage, make it more lo-fi. And the nice thing about when we do a new remix is that we can choose to have certain elements that are lo-fi, that are low fidelity, and other elements in the track that are high fidelity. We don't have to do the whole thing lo-fi or low quality sound or vintage sound. We can mix elements. Some are vintage, some are sleek and sharp and new and sound contemporary. But in general, all the tracks in the album have this element of 1970s old vinyl kind of quality, where the sound was somewhat distorted, some of it was overdriven, some of it was with noise from the old LPs and vinyls. So we put all that into this album. Now, the last buzzword in this title, in the project, is Chillhop. We wanted to create an album of Chillhop music because this is the kind of music that a lot of students prefer to study to. And the question is, how would you define Chillhop? And I'm going to Pete. Pete, would you help us understand, what would be considered Chillhop music, what is not Chillhop? How do you define that?
Great question. So I would describe Chillhop as being a micro genre. So it falls within the greater genre of hip hop music, but it's more niche in the fact that it combines elements of hip hop with elements of what's called chill out music, which is sort of easy listening mood music, has jazzy elements. So you combine those two and you get this new subgenre, microgenre. And it really exploded in the early 2000s with the advent of YouTube, and specifically YouTube live streams and those 24-hour looping study session live streams.
Yes, it's interesting that my daughter, she's in college now. She's starting her second year in college, but a few years ago, she was in high school, and I didn't know. She just told me now when she heard that I'm releasing a Chillhop album. She said, "Oh, when we were in the library in study hall, the teacher put on a YouTube channel of lo-fi Chillhop music to be in the background while we were studying in study hall in the library in the high school where she went." So thanks to Nick, actually, we found out about that. Nick introduced us to this style, and now I'm introducing this style to my daughter and her friends, and a whole new generation of a new kind of 40 hertz chill hop. We have to remember that our album is not a regular chill hop. It's chill hop at 40 hertz. The whole music is tuned to 40 hertz because 40 hertz is a sound that have been shown to increase focus, memory, and concentration. So what we are offering here is a super strong study music that has the chill hop music and the beat and the slow elements and the loungy and relaxed elements, but with a beat that pushes you to work. And there's also the 40 hertz vibration that helps the brain focus and concentrate. It drives the brain to a range of waves called gamma, which is very fast brain waves that are associated with intuition and concentration and memory. And so it's really, really good for people who are studying, especially people who may have difficulty studying. So this is hopefully will help a lot of young people, a lot of students, and not just young students. Anybody can study with this music. So let me go around and get a little bit more into the process of working on these tracks, because I'm really interested in the behind the scene. I love programs online that artists tell about how they worked on a project. I'm really, really a fan, an avid fan of these kind of documentaries and behind the scene programs. So I'd like to share with the viewers, Nick, how was it in the very beginning when you got the material that I sent to you, and I gave you a track and said, "Hey, remix this." How did you go about starting to work on this? What was the very first initial tasks that you took on?
Well, of course, just listening, really listening to it. Again, my perspective on this is that It's really about reconceptualizing this music. So hearing something and realizing maybe a certain musical element, either a rhythm or a certain musical tonality or something like that, that if seen from a different perspective could be really interesting, right? It's like, deconstructing it in a way. So listening with a certain type of ear to really think what elements of these could be used. And then, so once I did that, essentially, I started to find small elements. And like I say, with collage or something, I chopped out those little elements, put them aside, and then sat back and looked, how do I assemble this into an entire structure? Adding new elements of my own, and then taking maybe different effects, things like that, to make it interesting. The difficult part of this versus other types of remix is that the 40 hertz tones that you talk about, those need to kind of stay in there. I can't add too many effects that would remove those frequencies because that negates the entire purpose. So I had to be aware of that when I was effectively changing or altering those musical elements in a way that would retain that 40 hertz tone. But yeah, so essentially from there, I just created and constructed new songs using that with a certain beat and assemble it all together like a collage. Yeah.
So you added some drum loops or percussion loops that are new, that were not there originally, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you added the bass, sometimes keyboard element.
Yeah, all types of elements, some piano elements, some new melodies. A lot of the drums, I programmed those drums beats myself. Some of them I added, of course, like I believe Chi was saying, ambient noise, adding in the sound of rain in the background, or adding in the sound of birds in the forest, or things like that to help give it that vibe. That was also part of that remixing process, to say, what feel does this have? Does this feel like something that would be at the ocean? Does it feel like something that would be in the forest? Yeah. And just going for the feel too that gets created once those elements get cut together.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Let me ask Chi the same question. What was the process for you? How did you work? What did you do first? What did you do second? What did you do third? And what was the most difficult element in this project?
So definitely share a lot of things in common with Nick. And so listen a lot first. And then I would choose like a small section of the original track to focus on. It's like the core of the remix that I want to build around, and also probably is the material I'm gonna repeat for most of the time. And then I would decide on the tempo and key, and playing, especially the tempo, playing around with different tempos, and then make sure like it stays true to the beauty of the original tracks while fitting into lo-fi genre, and which typically falls between like 60 to 90 BPM. And then like Yuval has mentioned, I start with beats and then bass. And then because these two elements are like the foundation or anchor of the track, and then they give the groove and of the whole track. And then once I have them, I begin layering melodic elements on top, and then finally add some ambient textures, and we call it ear candy, and to give it more like immersive feel. And so that is the process.
Yes.
And then for the most difficult of all the challenge, I would say, and for me, I think my challenge is a little bit unique and also fascinating to me, because so for my part, I remix 6 tracks from choral works from Yuval, and this is very challenging because lo-fi or chill hop, they are typically instrumental, And so I need to find a way that to balance between like what I said, I want to stay true to the original beauty of the track, especially the choral vocals. They are usually very prominent, and then but meanwhile, I want to keep the direction of this artistic direction of this lo-fi Chillhop project. So I think Yuval gave me a lot of help and instructions during this process, and then I'm really glad we finally made it. It's something truly special and unique. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I remember that I sent you the score of the choir because you worked on 6 choral remixes, and sometime it was very challenging indeed to work with the choir score. And I understand from Nick that Nick, for you, the most challenging part was to deal with the 40 hertz that was all the time in the background. The 40 hertz is like a bass tone that you cannot get rid of, and you need to work with it. Is that correct? Is that the most challenging part for you, Nick?
Yeah, because it was a drone essentially going through the music. And typically with a lot of music, there are chord changes. There are changes in where you're the way that the harmony moves, but essentially the harmony could really only go to certain places that wouldn't clash or sound dissonant with the other stuff. And again, this style of music is all about harmony and smooth and sweet sort of sounds in general, so that they're relaxing. You're not trying to excite people too much with avant-garde sounds and things like that. So keeping that one consistent tone was hard to work around. I
Right.
felt. Yeah.
Yes. And that tone, the 40 hertz tone, is the note E, but tuned about a quarter tone lower than normal Western tuning. So all the harmonies, everything had to work with the bass note, bass pedal E, tuned to 40 hertz. And that was one of the basic requirement of this challenging project. And we managed to do that. We have 18 tracks that are all in E. They are all working with a frequency of 40 hertz. They all are satisfying and harmonic, and none of them is suspenseful or distressing, or colliding or create friction with the note of E 40 hertz. So that is one of the great achievements of this project, which is not very easy to do. Let's go to Pete. Pete, describe the process. When you got the music, how did you work on it? What was the first, second, third, fourth things that you've done? And what was the most difficult part of all?
Okay, so my process began with the tempo. So I would listen to the track and I would identify which parts, which melodies, instruments I wanted to use, and then I would find a tempo that was close to what the instrumentalists were playing. And then I would go and find a Chillhop drum sample that matched that tempo. So that was my first step. And also finding multiple drum samples so that it was intricate and layered and interesting throughout. And then I would break down Yuval's masterful mixes by each individual instrument and identify each melody line, which instrument had the melody line, like flute or oud or sitar, the harmonies that were inherent in what was being played, and the rhythmic elements. And I would decide how I want to rearrange those ideas to create a new form. So that was very interesting because it forced me to listen to your music with even more depth and really pay attention what's happening throughout the whole 10-minute or sometimes 40-minute long sound healing piece. And then Then you add your own, like Chi said, ear candy. You add new ideas, synthesizers, jazz trumpet with a harmonium, vinyl noises, effects, little impacts here and there that you might not even notice unless you really, really pay attention. And then, of course, send to Yuval for revisions, and then to Nick for the wonderful mastering. Just did an excellent job. I would say the most difficult part for me was having to do with the tempo, because a lot of Yuval's pieces, the melody lines are very rubato. So they're very, there's no strict tempo throughout. They shift and they change. And that's because of the beautiful expression that the instrumentalists put into the melodies that they're playing. So one of the challenges was lining up this new drum sample with this original, beautiful, free flowing playing. So that was a challenge, but then it also became sort of a new form of ideas, because the interplay between the rubato nature of your original recordings with the new drum samples created this new rhythmic interplay that created new rhythmic ideas for melodies. And that was really, really cool. It made me rethink how I approach production mistakes. That mistakes can oftentimes create the most amazing, unexpected outcomes. So yes, that would be the most difficult part for me.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah. Thank you for mentioning Nick that did also the mastering for the whole album and did great job on making it sound as a one album. And here's the thing, even though it's one album of 18 tracks and all the music is originally composed by myself, but then tweaked and massaged and recreated by each one of you, when you listen to this album, out of the 18 tracks, even if you don't look at the credits, who remixed what, you can hear three different voices. I can really hear it. There are three different styles, even though each one of you got the same assignment and each one of you worked with the same, not the same material, but material from one composer. Each one of you created a different world because of who you are and your sensitivity. So there's really three different styles within this album, and it all flows. Somehow the 18 tracks flow one after the other in a beautiful journey, which is best for learning and studying with. And that reminds me that I wanted to ask each one of you to tell us what kind of music you listened to when you were in high school or in college or in middle school. I know you probably didn't have Chillhop music playing in the room or nothing like the kind of 40 Hertz Chillhop music that we are putting out there. But what helped you focus and concentrate? Let's start with Nick.
It's actually a great question. Reflecting on my time, again, as I said, I started when I was playing music and guitar when I was a young teen. I didn't actually listen to a lot of music when I would study, because as a musician, I would get distracted by the music and not be reading or doing the math or whatever, but my attention would get diverted by a catchy melody or, oh, I love this drum fill or whatever it was that brought my attention away. So I didn't really listen to a lot. It was only towards the end of my master's degree that I really discovered ambient music, just pure ambient music, no drums, the sort of synthesizer pad and all that sort of stuff, that I realized, okay, this is really good to put on when I'm doing meticulous editing work, whether I'm editing details of a spreadsheet or I'm doing writing, but something that it just filled the space and gave a vibe, but it didn't impose itself in any way that was distracting for me. So often I find lyrics or melodies or other somewhat aggressive elements to obviously catch my attention as a musician. That's what they're supposed to do. They're like a giant flag waving. So I get distracted by that. So Chillhop, I discovered about 8 years ago, but ambient music and Chillhop are really the two that I started to utilize in my daily life and continue to when I'm doing work, because I would like there to be some sound, but I don't want it to be distracting. So
Yes,
yeah.
interesting. Yeah. By the way, I've started doing my emails every morning with the 40 hertz jazz piano and the 40 hertz classical piano. And I find it to be really productive for me for the beginning of the day, just putting on headphones and I'm listening to this 40 hertz music that has only piano, and I do my emails and I enjoy the ambient of the music, and I feel I'm getting the 40 hertz vibrations, and this is my new music to work to. Let's go to Chi. What kind of music you used in the background when you studied in college or in high school? What was it like?
Yeah, actually, I also really love ambient music when I work, and that's why I think that's one of my main influences. And I also listen to a lot like instrumental music. Like I basically listen to everything, but like post rock and like those really long pieces with intricate arrangements. And also I love world music, and that's how I notice Yuval's work and this mentorship opportunity. And yeah, and
Have you ever heard lo-fi chill hop before this project?
oh yeah, I listen a lot this too. And so this is something I will listen to
Good.
during my when I work or study.
What about Pete? What kind of music you listened to when you were in middle school, in high school, in college?
Well, in middle school, I think I exclusively listened to the Beatles. I'm not sure that's a great study tool, but yeah, when I got to high school, I started listening to classical music and jazz music while I studied. And then when I got to college, I sort of grew out of that a bit. I found that too distracting. And that's when I sort of started listening to like almost sort of like ASMR piano, where the mic is really close. You can hear all the internal sounds of the piano. And then also I would listen to those 24-hour lo-fi chill hop channels on YouTube.
Cool. So all this music is great. The only thing that is clearly different is our new album has the 40 hertz vibration throughout, which increase focus and concentration. And I wanted to bring in the vision man, the man behind the vision, Dr. Richard Gold, who has this vision of bringing 40 hertz to beautiful music and to do it in every possible style. We've got, I think, 7 different albums in 7 different musical styles, all in 40 hertz. And I'm wondering, Dr. Gold, what is the suggested use of this album of the 40 hertz beats to study to? What would you suggest? What do we recommend that people and students do? How to use it best?
Thank you, Yuval. First of all, I want to just acknowledge our team and how wonderful they are and how impressed I am to hear them explain more of what's going on behind the scenes and in their lives, and how blessed we are to have such talented people working with us. From the start of our work together, Yuval, in Metta mindfulness music, neuroscience was always playing an important role. And with original composition, high-level acoustic musicians, And so really for the first 10 or 11 years of our work together, we didn't know about gamma. We didn't know about 40 hertz. And in fact, the gamma and specifically 40 hertz is a new and emerging area of study in neuroscience. It's probably one of the most exciting things happening in neuroscience and sounds right now. In a way, scientists have backed into the understanding of the value of 40 hertz gamma because they saw in people that were suffering from cognitive decline and Alzheimer's an absence of 40 hertz gamma activity in their brains. And we know now that 40 hertz, specifically within gamma and then specifically 40 hertz, facilitates an integration between aspects of the brain, the different lobes of the brain, and the different dynamic components of the brain. So when we started to bring 40 hertz into our work, as a production company, we went on a whole new path together. The thing is the science behind 40 hertz, where they're using it in labs, specifically with animals, it's now emerging with some human studies, they're just using raw tones. And so I come from this from a different direction than our team, which is I'm not the musical person. I'm a clinical doctor. And I'm a new age astronaut in a sense, or thought-o-naut. I'm trying to understand where we can go and how we can expand, how we can deepen our spiritual and evolutionary potential. And so that's where I intersect with all this. And certainly a great blessing in my life was meeting you, Yuval, to manifest this in a global way. So with 40 hertz, what we see or hear, and what we brought to it is, as a doctor, to get a patient to do what you want, which is for their benefit, we have to have compliance. They have to be willing to do what you've recommended. And this is the biggest challenge, whether you're prescribing herbs, nutrition, or pharmaceuticals, exercise, or don't drink coffee, don't smoke cigarettes, all those sorts of things. Don't drink too much alcohol. So when we brought together beautiful music with the healing potential and the effect on the brain and neuroscience, I think we opened a new portal into a new space. And so what we know now from early research results is that focus, concentration is really enhanced with the 40 hertz. And we can take things from short-term memory into long-term memory because we've activated the whole brain. We've set up these neural networks or neuromodulation in the brain. So the brain is much more receptive and things can be tucked away in certain compartments where we can access it more easily. On a practical matter, if you're going to start a study session, we would recommend just listening to music without even opening your books, and just let yourself sound dream, daydream for about 5 minutes. And then you could either play the music while you're studying, if that's appealing to you, or you could turn it off and come back to it. Now, a component of our productions is we use something called binaural beats, which we haven't really talked about. I'd like to delve into that briefly, which is a specific type of brain entrainment where you only get the effect of it with wearing headphones. And what we do is we send one vibration, one hertz signal into one ear, a different into the other, and the brain modulates this to a third frequency that's existing at that moment, at that time, only in the brain of the person listening to it. So it becomes a unique vibration. So we add a layer of 40 hertz. Besides our instruments tuned at 40 hertz, the composition at 40 hertz, the droning at 40 hertz, we also have the binaural beat potential. And this really, for some people, especially if you're easily distracted, to have headphones on will help narrow your focus margins and so you can focus even better. We're going to enhance working verbal memory. We're going to enhance verbal recall. And we're going to enhance reaction time, especially during tests, time tests for students. So there's tremendous benefit. And something that was brought up, and I want to reiterate briefly, is musical tastes vary from person to person. We see in this group, what works for them is different from each other. When I was studying pre-med in the library, I didn't have any music because we had headphones, we had no portable players. So it's a whole new age now in a sense. So we've decided, again, because compliance and unique flavors that people like and are responding to differ, is we have some music that's purely ambient. We have some in the new age genre. We have world music. We have light jazz. We have solo piano. We have choral. And so these different styles of music can appeal to a wider variety of people. And even for an individual, sometimes you're going to want to listen to the lo-fi chill, but that might not be in the right mode for you at that time. So you might want to do solo piano. It's going to still be in the 40 Hertz. You're going to get these benefits. You're not going to necessarily have the same groove that our teams achieved with the lo-fi, but you're going to have beautiful music that's composed by an expert composer, performed by world-renowned musicians, recorded and mixed and enhanced. It's a marvelous listening experience. And I really encourage people to check us out, try the different flavors, see what works for you. Different times, different subjects, you might do something different. And so that's what I have to say right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So all these albums that you described, all those musical styles, they are all in 40 Hertz.
Correct.
And we have it on metamindfulnessmusic.com, Metta with double T. On the replay, we're going to put subtitles on the screen that tells people where they can get it. But at the end of this program, the live stream version, you're going to see the album trailer again with the website where you can get it. I'd like to add one more thing before we go to questions. And this is just to remind you, the people who are watching live, to enter your questions in the comments on the YouTube page. And our producer, Zach, will get the questions to us live in few seconds. But just one last science item that I recall reading a study from Stanford where I think it came through Dr. Huberman, or something that you shared with me, Dr. Gold, is that I think Dr. Huberman mentioned that it takes time for the brain to get to the 40 Hertz vibration. It takes time for the brain to go there, to start vibrating that fast. And so he really recommends listening to this music, the 40 Hertz music and the 40 Hertz beats to study to, before you go to study, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 10 minutes before, just to get your brain to vibrate in that range and then to start working. And I think the finding of the study was that the number one choice for studying once you start studying is to study in silence. And number two, the second best choice is to study with music that increase concentration and focus. And that would be this Chillhop music, or other people may choose the choir or the jazz or the world music, whatever music you like at that day. And of course, like you said, Dr. Gold, every day may be a different thing for you. You are your own healer. You are your own, you are the person who can prescribe the music best for yourself. On Monday, you may need more energy. You may need to listen to the lo-fi Chillhop. On Tuesday, you may feel that you have the drive, but you don't have the concentration, and all you want is to hear just one instrument. So you may choose the piano. And another day, you may want to feel something very soothing, like the human voice, and you may listen to the Heal Me in 40 Hertz, at 40 Hertz, which is the choral piece. So you can prescribe the music to yourself, but if you can study best in silence, that's great, but listen to the music before, or listen to the music throughout your studies. And the worst thing is to listen to music that is destructive, that is not productive, that is too fast, that is too busy, that has a lot of words in a language that you understand. If it's a language that you don't understand, that's good, because your language center is not engaged. But in the language that you're fluent, this is not what you want to study to. You don't want to have your brain think about one thing and other part of your brain analyzing the words that you hear from the music. So that's our recommendations. And let's go now to Zach and see if there are any questions coming from listeners.
Yeah. Jordan is wondering, where can people find and listen to this music?
Okay, so there's a question about where one can find this music. Well, the music is available everywhere. Our albums are on Apple Music, on YouTube, on Spotify, on 100 online platforms, Pandora, anywhere you listen to music, you could find our music. Just type in the name of the album and the name of the artist, and you're going to find it. The best quality audio is available on our website, which is Metta with double T, mindfulnessmusic.com, and it's under the brain health category. So again, it's Metta mindfulnessmusic.com, and Metta is with double T. Metta with double T means in Sanskrit loving kindness. Yes, Zach, do you have any other questions from viewers?
Yes, Callie would like to know, should people listen to this music in headphones or on speakers?
So maybe Dr. Gold, maybe you could take Kali's questions. The question is it really important to listen to this music with headphones, or is it okay to listen to it through speakers, or both, or what would be best?
Well, any way you're going to listen to it's going to be beneficial. You're not going to get the binaural beats effect without headphones. And the better quality headphones, you're going to get the lower tones more beneficially, more effectively. If you're in an environment where there's a lot of external distractive noises, I would highly recommend headphones. If you're in a library and you don't want to disturb anybody around you, certainly. But you're going to get tremendous benefit on speakers too. Remember, vibrations of sound affect every cell of our body. So if you can listen to it with headphones and speakers, that's like a double dip. That's going to be beneficial. But really, whatever's going to work in that moment. I do want to emphasize something you brought up a little bit, Yuval, which is the difference between MP3s from streaming and WAV files, which are only downloaded of our music on our website. The MP3 technology, that algorithm is brilliant. It allows us to have 10,000 songs on a handheld phone. I mean, you can't deny the brilliance of that. But in order to do that, the algorithm strips a lot of data out of the tracks. And what we do with our tracks is we layer it with a lot of data. So the main theme you're hearing is still going to be there when it's MP3, but some of the brain entrainment beats and some of the more subtle elements are going to be taken out. It's still going to be beautiful music if you stream it on Spotify or Pandora or YouTube. But if you really are looking for the most effective therapeutic and beneficial component of the music, I would recommend downloading the WAV files to your phone or your devices.
Mm-hmm. You know, there's a new term that people start using. It's called lossless music. Lossless. You know, what does that tells us? Lossless. That means that there's a loss in every music that you stream from the music. It's a music that lost some of its music. And so the full music, the way the artist released it, is called the lossless music, which what we always call high quality audio. The high quality audio, this is what you want to get. And unfortunately, you cannot stream it from Spotify, or YouTube, or Pandora, or anywhere else. They give you all music that is full of losses. It's really sad, but this is what we get. But you can get the full audio, the full music without losses, without losing anything from the musical vibrations. You can get that by downloading it from the artist or from the record company that provides it. In this case, it's Metta mindfulnessmusic.com that provides the full audio lossless music.
It's analogous to what's happened in the food industry, where a lot of nutrition is stripped out of food. It's going to taste okay, and your brain's going to respond to it and physiologically, but it's not really what nature intended.
Yeah, very, very, very true. Zach, I think we're ready to see the album trailer for one last time and to conclude this interesting session, unless there's one or two more questions for us to entertain.
There is one more question.
Okay.
Braden would like to know what are the next projects that these talented remixers are working on?
Okay, very good. So let's go around. We'll start with Nick, then Chi, then Pete. Tell the viewer that was interested in, what are you looking at as your next musical project, or what you're hoping for? What are you thinking or envisioning or actually working on this time? Let's start with Nick.
Sure. Yeah, excuse me, as a guitarist, I do all sorts of styles, and I've got a lot of different projects coming up. But I believe probably the one that might be interesting is one that I'm calling Forest Cat. I'm a cat person. I've got a forest cat. It's a style of cat, and I live in the forest. And this style of music is going to be chill hop with guitar. So it's a guitar-based jazzy chill hop style genre.
Very cool.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to hearing the Forest Cat chill hop coming from Nick Salerno.
Yeah.
Okay, Chi, what are you looking at as your next project?
I'm currently working on a project called Symbiosis and Love, and it's like a plant-inspired music. I have been working on this since my last artist residency, where I used a specific device to translate the biological signal from plants to MIDI notes, and then just layer some other melodic elements based on that. Yeah, so this is more like ambient meditative music.
Very cool. All right. And do you have a name for that project? Is that Symbiosis? That's the name?
Symbiosis in Love, yeah.
Okay. Very good. Looking forward to hearing both the Forest Cat and the Plants ambient meditation music. Pete, what do you envision working on next?
Well, similar to Nick and Chi, I create my own music. I write some songs. So I will be working on some new pop songs. And in addition to that, I will be working with a fantastic music education company in Boston, putting together notations of children's music to create music books that go along with music classes for toddlers and their caretakers.
Excellent. So much good work is coming our way, and we are so fortunate to do what we do and to put out harmony and beauty to the world that can benefit people and can make things better, from toddler to 100 years old, and anything in between. So before we go to see the trailer, Zach, I want to thank you, Zach, for producing the show today. And I want to thank our three remixers, Nick, Chi, and Pete. And Dr. Richard Gold, thank you for envisioning and initiating and executively producing this amazing project of 40 Hertz beats to study to. Thank you all for being with us. Check out our YouTube channel of metamindfulnessmusic.com on YouTube. There's lots of interesting videos. On our website, metamindfulnessmusic.com, there's a tab called Learn, and you can click on that, and there's going to be a pull-down menu with all kinds of scientific resources, studies, and videos. Really interesting stuff. And of course, the brain health category has all the 40 Hertz and Binaural Beats albums, all in high quality lossless music format. So enjoy and be well. And we are ready, Zach, for the album trailer for 40 Hertz Beats to Study To.
Hey, it's time to focus. There's a new type of sound called 40 Hertz, which has been found to increase problem solving, memory, and attention. 40 Hertz Beats to Study To is an album featuring these mind and body healing sounds mixed with familiar Chillhop beats, which can be enjoyed while studying. Listening to this music while studying will result in a chiller, more effective study session, resulting in better grades and less stress.
40 Hertz sound have been shown to increase cognitive function in the brain. So for this album, I took some of my 40 Hertz music tracks and had it remixed in a lo-fi chill-hop style by 3 talented musicians.
If you're looking to make an academic comeback this semester, listen to 40 Hertz Beats to Study To.